A Seattle CEO and several of his employees are slashing their salary to zero to try to prevent layoffs over the coronavirus crisis. The same CEO 5 years ago this week slashed his $1 million salary to $70,000 to guarantee a $70,000 minimum wage in his company. Q13 Simone Del Rosario has more on the sacrifice his company is taking and how long they can sustain this. Simone.
It's a big question, Aliana. Look, Gravity Payments is facing the same climate as so many other businesses across our state and country. They went from making about $500,000 in profit a month to essentially losing $1.5 million a month. And the CEO who sacrificed his own $1 million salary 5 years ago turned to his team this time around for a solution.
Looked like the right thing to do, right thing in quotes for a company like us would be to lay off 30 to 50% of the team, which would mean 60 to 100 people losing their jobs at a historically bad time to be unemployed. And I just didn't want that to happen. And I was just blown away to have 10 people say they wanted to work entirely for free, to have between 2 and 3 dozen people say that they wanted to give up the majority of their pay to keep us going and keep us supporting small businesses. It's just, even telling you now, I feel completely overwhelmed and confused and out of sorts, that our team would come up with that type of a solution.
And his team inspired him to do the same, cutting his now $70,000 salary to zero. Look, he doesn't know how long they can keep this all going. They are dependent on small businesses' success. They work with about 20,000 small businesses. And he says, based on the information they have, there is some good news out there. He says the chances are that small businesses are at rock bottom, and that could be a good thing. Gravity Payments facilitates credit card transactions for companies. The last week in March, says all Washington businesses were down about 54% in sales volume. In Seattle, it was down 65%. That including Seattle bars and restaurants, which were down about 85%. But for the first time in weeks, the next week after this, things didn't get worse.
Starting 5 weeks ago, it was losing 10, 15, 20% every week. But the last 2 weeks, it's been flat. And so while some businesses are continuing to suffer and continue to get worse, it does appear that we've hit a bit of a bottom. Is it going to be enough for small businesses to survive? Not necessarily, because they are out of cash, they're strapped, they're desperate. But we're seeing small businesses do everything to be able to say for sure they deserve to survive. And that's caused our economy to not get better, but also not get worse in the last 2 weeks.
Of course, we know there are some small businesses that have lost 100% of their sales, but he says for the ones that are hanging in there, he's seeing a lot of innovation to help those small businesses stay steady, even if it is at 55% less than what they used to be operating at. And like so many other small businesses, Gravity Payments, which has about 200 employees, will also be looking to federal relief to try to keep those payrolls alive as we continue through this crisis. Aliana?